Oh, well, I gotta tell you, I might be going to Germany for an apprenticeship soon. So it'll be my Wanderjahrs, or whatever they used to call it.
Your rumspringen, as the Amish here
Yeah,
call it.
exactly. But no, it's nothing that exciting. It's just working with the Polish and Ukrainians and Russians who have all fake documents, fake Polish documents on solar panels,
Based.
and like learning how to sell solar panels. But
Man,
I
that's a
guess
thing over there too.
yeah, it's not that bad because this is like everyone sucks at selling today. Everyone's really terrible. Everyone's rude, and everyone's like shitty at speaking to you. No one cares. Like people mispronounce your name, and no one has ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is a wonderful book, despite every like cringe assessment of it. Even Evelyn mentions it, and I mean, he's kind of right that Americans, modern people have to learn how to have friends. But yeah, it's
Well, I mean,
there's
Americans,
yeah.
as I've found out, as Europeans on the dissident right keep telling me, Americans are a race of natural salesmen. Um,
Well, yeah, I mean, but yeah, Russians can do it. Russians can be very pleasant to put in customer service because they aren't, well, Albanians or Indians or whatever.
yeah, that's true. I mean, Russians. I don't want to. I don't want to sit here in armchair psychologies, but I'm gonna sit here in armchair psychologies. It's like Americans and Russians are really just two sides of the same coin. They're the same kind of people at two different extremes. Um, Americans can be the biggest black pilled pessimists you'll ever find, and Russians can be extremely pleasant optimists, in the right circumstances, such as letting Russians leave Russia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's weird, right? Like, despite everything, despite how dictatorial Russia is or is, in the news, they still like they just let people leave during the war. Like they do not attempt to stop you. And I mean, millions of people left, really. Like, it's not that like the war is like terrible. Like I talk to Russians, so I mean, a lot of them just never hear about any of this because they live away from Moscow, away from St. Petersburg, and they just do their stuff. And they're like, okay, this is just another country. And for them, like life isn't too bad. I mean, there's a lot of there's, there's work to do, and work pays. Like, yeah, it's the average pay is about 5,000 euros a year, which is very little, and it's very little for Russia too. But but Russia has 13% taxes, and it's a state static tax. What do you call it? There's a word for it, but it's basically it never goes up. It's just 13%.
Flat
And
tax.
of course, Russians do a lot of stuff illegally. So people work in the black. They get a little more money. They declare a little less income. All that stuff. Cash is king in Russia. You know?
You think do you think an American would, if assuming he learned the language, do you think the cultural barrier would keep him from doing business there, or do you think he would do well there?
He would do very well there. He doesn't really even need to learn the language because, well, Russians are pretty good at English.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, people would love if he were to learn the language. Everyone would be ecstatic. I don't think that he would have much trouble doing business, but people would always expect him to be American, of course. So,
You know,
I
that's the one thing I like about Russians. I like a lot of things about Russians, right? And I may bash on Slavs every now and again, but that's one of the things I like about Russians is that Russians don't expect anyone to be anything other than what they are, which is, you
It's
know,
true. There's problems from that, as in the multinational empire that Russia is not doing. particularly well with all the other nationalities because if Russians make 5,000 a year, those nationalities make almost nothing, and I mean they work, right? They work and they kind of they don't really like Russian, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of ethnic strife, and a lot of it is very psychopathic. It doesn't really have a plan. There's no tracking the dissatisfaction may erupt any point, and I mean like Chechnya is very autonomous now, kinda. I mean, it's more like a zoo because after all, Kadyrov and friends live in the center of Moscow. They don't live in Grozny, right? In Chechnya. They and same thing in Kazakhstan. Like there's some weird ethnic tensions brewing. I mean, this like people try to make a pan-Slavic language. I don't remember. There were a few attempts, and there's a new one now, but it's like stupid because Russian is already a pan-Slavic language. Everyone used to speak it, like back in the Russian Empire, back in the Soviet Union, and then just poof, and like Estonians don't even speak Estonian anymore. They just speak English. Right?
Foul.
But then again, Estonian is a horrible, terrible language made by people who did not manage to become Finnish.
Yeah.
At some point, they started getting signals from Finnish television, and they just started speaking Finnish. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean,
You know,
yep.
Bob, I'm glad you started talking about this because yesterday, when I was driving home from somewhere I was going yesterday, I was listening to something that Dimes and his buddy Judas did on their podcast Blood Satellite, and they were reviewing Samuel P. Huntington's book Clash of Civilizations, and it's kind of this like quasi Spenglerian pre 9/11 take, similar to like Strauss Howe's The Fourth Turning. And this is back in the 90s. This is back in the bell curve days when you could be a liberal and still like say things like, well, race and IQ is obviously correlated, and you know
Yeah.
so this it was written of a different time, but it's kind of still coming to pass, or at least somewhat. And while it's quasi Spenglerian, he the author Samuel P. Huntington basically holds that there's no such thing as a universal business language, and that all of these different civilizations are just going to, as the world globalizes further, they're going to then use that as an excuse to differentiate themselves. Once they learn all the techniques and technology as to how to more effectively resist the homogenization, they're going to start making themselves, they're going to use the technology to make themselves less like, for example, the Western world. And Bobby, the West is still a colonizing force, The West is still a colonizing force in the sense that, the West still wants countries to, what's the thing, you adopt liberal, secular, gay right democracy, basically. That's what you need to quote unquote Westernize. That's
Part of it
necessary.
is definitely the governance principle and the economy.
Exactly.
Those are really, really
and
important.
and that's how we colonize countries at this point. We still colonize countries. It's just we do it by forcing other countries to be like us in exchange for goodies. Um, and the primary counterexample is China, who took our goodies, but then like started to use our goodies to differentiate themselves from us further. And they're not really. I mean, I don't want to. China is not very good at what it does in that regard. But in terms of economic warfare, they are doing very well. Um,
I mean, I am convinced that China is like an extension of the USA. I don't think that there's any possible rivalry because one can't survive without the other.
it's
You know,
true, but that only further serves to like drive a wedge culturally between the two countries.
yeah,
Um,
culturally, definitely, definitely, because like you can't detach Well, one second. Before we kind of continue further, can you publish it on Twitter? Can you like
Oh
put
yeah, I
it?
forgot.
Actually, you have about 50% engagement rate on your channel, which is pretty good, you know.
I forgot. I forgot to share the links, Bobby.
Yeah. Mm. But because, China has entire like cities that are just one big steel mill. Uh, America used to have mining towns and what are they called? Like company towns, yeah. Company towns. Well, company towns were towns. Here we have company metropolises. Metropolisi?
Metropolis.
Metropolises?
Metropolis
Metropolis.
is how you say that. It's M E
Okay.
T R O Poleis. That's how you say it in the plural. Metropolis
Metropolis. Yeah,
or
we have
metropoli. Yeah, however you say it.
metropolis sounds better. Yeah. Well, you have company metropoli where people just fall into these vats of metal by the hundreds, and choking fumes envelop the city. But they do it, and there's no way to get rid of it. You do need all that steel production. You need it for China, you need it for Russia, you need it for America, but mostly America, because Russia and China relations have soured and have always been sour because like China and Russia are just not the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, because it's weird, right? Because Japan has a lot of Russian influence in it because of the proximity of the islands. I think it's because you can actually live on those islands, on the Kuril Islands,
Yeah.
compared to maybe the north of Mongolia.
Where you can't
Yeah,
live.
yeah, Pittsburgh, exactly. Well, Pittsburgh actually at one point was declared the cleanest city on earth, I
Well,
think. And
I
yeah,
think that's because that's after. So Pittsburgh is actually really like great now. You know, it almost
yeah,
all of the almost all the industry's gone. They cleaned up the river and all that. They cleaned up the city. As a matter of fact, Pittsburgh is probably the nicest major metropolitan in the United States. It's also the whitest major metropolitan in the United States. Um, it's a huge like art center. Like a lot of artists live there. Closington, I think, actually went to that area.
yeah. But I think post-COVID something happened, and like I've read recently, and I don't know if you've seen the thread on Twitter where like people would just we're just saying that it's a ghost town where like everything's fucked, like the government isn't doing it, and like it's like everything's broken.
Well,
Weird shit.
in the words of Mike Pence, that's not my concern.
And that's not my concern. Yeah, that's
Bro,
not my concern. Because he,
that's
he got he got stuck. It's a stupid thing. It's because he had a good answer for that. He wanted to say something like, shut up, Tucker. Like, who cares? But he said, who cares? He said, it's not my concern. And then he kept repeating it because he wanted Tucker to shut up. And
you
yeah.
want to talk her. Well, and that's the bad look. Is it's like even if he meant it something differently, it's like it's the Freudian slip. You know.
He needed to shut up. He just needed to like listen and then say his screed after that, which like says, "Oh yeah, we can do both things at once. We can both give trillions of dollars. We can spend trillions of dollars on military, and we can also like give people money so they don't kill themselves. I guess it works, right?
Yeah.
But he he didn't do that. He didn't shut up. And
Well,
Tucker should have reached over the table and strangled him like Bart,
well, no. But the
like
thing is,
Homer.
though, is it's like this is great. This only, this is just like 2016 all over again. Like all of Trump's primary opponents are just outing themselves as the exact same thing. You know,
So
I'll tell you
horrible.
this, Bobby. In popular memory, and any of the three of you currently watching, can attest to this. In popular memory, Pence is going to be remembered as a traitor. That is how he will always be remembered. He will be remembered as the man who betrayed Trump when Trump needed him most. You know, and that'll be
They,
it.
they, they are really willing to die on the Ukraine hill.
Well, no, they
So
have
many.
to. They have to. Once you look into what the actual underpinning of this is. This is Mackinder Island thesis, Bobby. They have to die on the Ukraine hill, because Ukraine is a project that they've been working on for several decades. You know, Ukraine is the great meeting point of this, global camarilla. It's where they all get, all of their money gets laundered there. All of their fucking sex slaves come from there, right? And they look white enough to be passing, you know.
I don't mind. I don't buy the money laundering because they don't have to launder money.
Yes, they do.
No one
Yes, they.
why? I mean, everyone knows that they get a bunch of kickbacks and that they steal money.
So
No one really cares.
the
No one can
United
do anything.
the United States is the thing is though is that the United States culturally is the only country on earth whose government is founded by the people for the people. And at least and culturally that is a thing. That's more important than whether or not it is actually run that way. Culturally, that's what everyone believes, including various lower level federal judges. Various lower level.
Is it just part of the story?
Yes.
Like the Sandbatches streams about American foreign policy and Prudentialist, where they say that America is very concerned with selling itself a story, a good story.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. America, we said it earlier, the Americans are a race of salesmen, but they need to sell to themselves what they're selling. Americans can't sell anything they don't believe in, right? That's the thing. But you've got to excite them, you've got to get them enthusiastic about it, And that's why, because Americans want to be the good guys, they only ever want to be the good guys. They don't want to be the bad guys. And that's why, the Americans' default stance is isolationism. It's like, or at least, our rest state is isolationism, because we know that if we get involved in a lot of these other wars fought over petty disputes, we just become another petty European country. And so the first person, like your FDRs, like your William Randolph Hearsts with the Spanish-American War, the first person who comes along and starts kicking up a story for us to, buy into, about, those dirty Spaniards blew up one of our ships, or those dirty Japs blew up our ships, and and this is another sandbag take, is it's always our ships or something like that, and then the entire nation's like, we got to make them pay, and then it's like it's just war theory is paramount in the United States. But anyway, I digress.
Well, speaking of a story, we've got a story to continue this time.
We're kind of sitting here.
Go ahead. Let's continue. Let's see where we left off. 21 years old. We're at the half point. Wonderful.
The gunpowder plot. Very, very solemn providence. You are sitting on a solitary bench in a gazebo in the Archduke's garden. Tall lanterns spread their dim glow in the cool evening air. When Gaius Tempest became the overseer of Magra, one of his first edicts granted the commoners entry to the Archduke's garden. At the time, many Magrans saw this gesture as a sign of future change. But unfortunately, the right to visit Archduke's garden is the only new right commoners now enjoy by the grace of Overseer Tempest. Does little to ease the burden of double taxation or the need to work the mines without gunpowder. A serpentine, stone-paved road leads to the gazebo. Many flower beds are nestled in the bends and coils of the elaborate path. In the distance, on the other end of the path, you finally see Sophia's silhouette. She looks around, then steps over the low fence and walks to you through the flowers. I had trouble finding you here, Brante. Let's meet in one of the usual places next time. It isn't safe here. You agree, although you are sick and tired of the stuffy basement rooms and trash-filled ruins where you typically arrange to meet the leaders of the Last Straw cells. Okay, let's get to it. The Last Straw needs gunpowder. We could really use some. If we had gunpowder, we could blow up the Emperor's statue in the Golden Square, or the wall of the city armory. There's all kinds of stuff we could do. The thing is, you can't find it anymore. Even owning it is forbidden, thanks to the Overseer. Magran industry has had to swallow a bitter pill and trade their fancy new gunpowder for good old shovels. Except, not everyone got rid of it. Lucky for us, right? Give me some more of that fanged Numina, Bobby. We're tapping into that fanged Numina in real time.
Fang Newmaning. Oh,
That new friend of yours, Mayor Egmont. He's a resourceful fellow. He started buying gunpowder by the barrel some 20 years ago to work the mines. They still use it in his mines, but late at night so nobody finds out. There's a warehouse where they keep mountains of that stuff, Brante. We need to get our hands on it. If we can get Mayor to hand it over on his own, all the better, but if he digs his heels in, we'll just have to pay the warehouse a visit and grab it. Done deal. What do you say? Well, I could just do this, you know.
we'll make a deal, definitely.
Yeah, I can.
Because we're manipulators.
Yeah, I can just make a deal with him because we just, last time we just made a deal with him.
Totally. More
So-
deals, more diplomacy.
Sophia can rest easy. You promised to get her the gunpowder. All right, Bronte, I leave this up to you. You are meeting with Mayor Egmont in several days, for the 4th time this month, in fact. After the deal you struck at the warehouse, you have to maintain utmost secrecy every time. You arrive at the usual meeting place, the Black Bread Tavern. Thick drapes hide your table from prying eyes. Egmont is already there, ready to begin his usual dinner. Roast goose with vegetables and a pitcher of young wine. Mayor consumes his food without any obvious pleasure. It must be an old habit. After all, pleasures are forbidden to the common estate. You cannot help but imagine grandfather's outrage at seeing such a lavish feast for a lowly man. However, Bobby, the aristocracy of gold is replacing the aristocracy of blood in real time. I'm
The
sorry.
aristocracy of gunpowder is going to replace everyone soon.
Well, I mean, Carlyle said the real use of gunpowder is to make all men tall. It's like people say warfare went from being eugenic to being dysgenic with gunpowder, and I'm not so sure about that given what I know about ancient warfare. I think warfare has never been eugenic.
Warfare has never been eugenic, you say?
Yeah, warfare has never been eugenic.
Same idea as my dad. I don't know. I mean, if war is not eugenic, why do we love it so much? What was it? The ultimate trade awaiting its ultimate practitioner, Blood Meridian.
We don't love war. We love fighting. War and fighting are two different things.
Very good. It's different. I agree.
Like
Yeah.
the majority of how should I say, the majority of casualties in warfare do not occur on battlefields. The majority of casualties in warfare are from sickness, are from exposure, are from disease, or I've already said disease, are from how should I say,
Famine, maybe?
Yeah, malnourishment. That is where the majority of casualties of war come from. Not, and Bobby, this is why I tell people, it's like, everyone on the all these perennial traditionalists, like, and Evola, I give Evola some slack because he was an artillery captain in the Italian army.
He's killed a bunch of people.
Well, he didn't fight.
Their eyes.
He didn't fight in the First World. Did he fight in the First World War?
I believe he did. I believe he did fight.
Yeah, but he
may have. He didn't fight in the second one because, well, he was too old for that. Although I'm not sure if he was too old.
Yeah, we'll have to get a fact check on this. The thing is it's like, Evola thought, I guess he was disgusted with how he was fighting warfare, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's how Americans conquered the world, is by liking fighting warfare that way. One of my favorite little screeds to go on is talking about what U.S. artillery invented during the Second World War that basically was one of those things that, Americans, there's the joke, Bobby, of it's like, if you want to find out what force you're fighting, take a shot. If you get some quick precision rifle fire, you're fighting the British. If you get swamped with machine gun fire, you're fighting the Germans. And if if they retreat and nothing happens for a few minutes and then your whole position gets blown up by an artillery barrage, you're fighting the Americans.
Not only did Evola serve, So first of all, he served as an artillery officer on the Asiago Plateau in the First World War, when he volunteered in 1917 and saw frontline service. So like, and there's even a photo of him like standing next to like some ladders and whatnot, like on a cliff.
Okay.
So yeah, he actually did see combat.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that. But yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, so I cut Evola some slack, especially as an artillery officer. Evola should probably know a lot about this, but you know, call it reign of quantity if you want, but war is fought with logistics. You know, this is the thing. It's the least glamorous and most important part of war. Um, you know,
You don't want to be stuck in a trench eating vomelets forever.
well, that's true. I mean, the greatest generals are just master logisticians with a little bit of combat skills attached. You know, the great generals everyone remembers were just masters at logistics, and they had some combat skills. You know, my favorite, Bobby, who do you think in all of human history, in all warfare, my favorite general is? I do have one.
Hmm, difficult to say, but it's probably someone French.
Nope.
No, no, okay, then I don't.
I'll make it narrower. He was in the 30 Years' War.
30 Years War. You know what? I'm not that ashamed to say, but yeah, I don't know what the 30 Year War was.
So the 30 Years' War was the product. It was the inevitable war that was going to happen as a result of the Reformation.
Okay, got it.
It's, you know, the most famous commander of this war is Gustavus Adolphus. Pike and shot warfare. It absolutely hollowed out Europe. And like Germany, I think lost like 30% of its population, which is absolutely insane for, you know, pre-industrial numbers. But the 30 Years' War was this very strange transitionary period, and this is sorry, I accidentally pushed ahead. But it's kind of like, you know how this whole playthrough is like 17th century John Milton, Solemn Providence. You know, the 30 Years' War, you know, the English Civil War is kind of the 30 Years' War Great Britain theater. You know, you know, you had a lot of overlap between the British fighting on the continent and some continentals, most famously Prince Rupert of the Rhine, Count Palatinate, who was the cousin of the king, fighting in Great Britain. But my favorite general of all time is Albrecht von Wallenstein, who was the greatest of the Catholic commanders. Actually, he was a Bohemian German, I believe. He was a mercenary in the Holy Roman Empire, many such cases, and he single-handedly invented military logistics, or at least the modern concept of military logistics. And, you know, Wallenstein, he was decent. You know, he was very much an experienced soldier, but he had enough experience in war to realize that, you know, war is won before you even march off to the battlefield. And the conflict between him and Gustavus Adolphus is like an unstoppable force meets an unmovable object. Like, they were the two greatest generals of the Catholic and Protestant sides, respectively. And they met, and they only ever met once at Lutzen. And, you know, Bobby, Gustavus Adolphus was the king of Sweden who revolutionized modern military warfare through a lot of, by making his soldiers very light. He kind of started getting rid of pikes in favor of entirely musket formations, similar to how Maurice of Nassau's innovations in the Low Countries would bring about modern infantry tactics, which were then adopted in the 17th century, or the 18th century, rather. But Gustavus Adolphus won that battle at Lutzen, but lost his life to do it. He was killed during leading a cavalry charge. And the Swedish army, without Gustavus Adolphus, just simply returned to Sweden. You know, they didn't really keep fighting. But Wallenstein was assassinated by Habsburg agents a little bit later because, you know, so many rumors had spread that he was going to betray the Habsburgs, and that he was like a secret Protestant or something like that. That he had been killed. And, Bobby, this kind of stuff happens in empires. Empires always kill their best generals. You know, the Soviets did this with Tukhachevsky because the Soviets were an empire. The Soviets killed their best general. Um,
Yeah, I remember it was post World War One, right?
yeah,
There's a movie about it. It's called in Italian it's called Il Sole Ingannatore, but in Russian it's Утомленный солнцем, and in English it's not tired by the sun. It is the tiring sun, I think.
The Tiring Sun.
Um, 1 second. It's a wonderful movie. It is called in English. It actually won Cannes in 1994. It was Burnt by the Sun. Yeah, Burnt by the Sun. And it's about this general, which we don't really know that he's a general, and he's just having fun at his villa. This is like post World War One. I think the Soviets are already there, but it's still chaos. But he's there in the countryside, and they're swimming and doing all fun stuff, then um, and then the Politburo comes, and they get killed. That's it. That's the movie. Um, so they just put them in the car, and they go out to the field, punch them a few times, and they shoot them.
Taste. Or, well,
Yeah,
cringe.
this is the movie. This is like, it's a classic of Russian filmmaking. It's a very good movie. It's a wonderful movie. But like that's it. You see like an hour of them just having fun, like talking with each other, like being coy, just having like eating, going for a swim, and then they just get murdered. You know.
Ru-
Yeah, maybe.
Russians try not to have a happy story end with an absolutely brutal turn.
Well, there's a lot of happy stories in Russia, but like it's just the story of the 20th century is there was no story, and a lot of Russians, if you've read Charlemagne's new Substack, uh, a lot of Russians really did believe that like there was no history for the past 100 years in Russia. That it
Yeah.
was all just like bullshit, like invented bullshit. But like that's not true. Like there was history. There was a continuation the of the problems that they have faced. Of the like European integration, the integration of European ideas, American ideas. I mean, Lenin and Stalin, they both read the founding fathers at length. I think Lenin quotes like Washington a bunch of times in his anthology. Mm, But like, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And I watched the stream with Radleb about Russia, and they were correct, but they were just looking at graphs. They weren't really like going there on the ground. And on the ground, things are not that good. Like, yeah, it's cool. It's cool that crime is much lower, and we're not in fairyland. So, of course, the improvements that Putin has brought to Russia are like good, but still, no Russian wants to like be in Russia. People want to leave, like really want to leave, and they can't because they don't have enough money. Uh, but like, if you have money and you have children, you send them overseas. Now, of course, that happens like everywhere today because this brain drain. So it might not be that bad. But yeah, it's gray and it's just it's just oppressive. Like there's people make sad media because life is sad, and there's miserable brutality in the Far East of Russia, and like there's like two cities that are good, or like everyone wants to go to work in St. Petersburg or Moscow, and like the poor American villages. If you take away the drugs, if you take away fentanyl, life would not be that bad. If you take away drug addiction, but if you take away drug addiction, like things will still be bad in Russian villages.
Yeah.
It's it's just, man, that could be cool. Imagine the war ends and we organize a big trip. It's gonna be Radlib, it's gonna be you, it's gonna be Sandbach, maybe someone else.
I don't
And
know. I don't know how
we just
receptive to that they would be.
well, we just go to St. Petersburg and we go on a big trip. Go on a big trip between like villages and
Well,
big cities, small cities. Yeah.
Bobby, I was planning when I graduated college last year in the spring, I was planning on taking a trip to Odessa, you know. Like that was gonna
This is good.
be my big Rumspringen trip, out of college. I was gonna go see Europe, which I've never left the country. I've never left the United States. I went to Hawaii, and that's not leaving the country. And part of me thinks that at 23 years old, if I haven't yet left the country, and almost every other member of my family has, part of me thinks that's providential. Part of me thinks God is keeping me here, but that might be a, self-reinforcing prophecy. And I know a ton about these European countries. Like, I would know where to go and what to see if I was there. It's just I've never found myself there. But yeah, Bobby, I was planning on going to Odessa, and because I heard it's the most expensive Ukrainian city, but like for an American, you can live on like $20 a day,
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
which was gonna be I was gonna have a lot of fun doing that, and it's a very from what I've told and what I saw, it was a very nice, clean city. Um,
This is cool. We went there once. I went there as a kid. It's when we went on a trip to around Ukraine. We went to Crimea. We went to Odessa. Of course, Kiev. But yeah, it's a good choice. Yeah, hey, whenever the war ends, like honestly, I'd be very honored to organize a trip for the Old Glory Club to St. Petersburg. You could go, you could find a bunch of people you could talk to about like all kinds of things. Uh, because like I guess Russia and the United States are so connected today that like you're learning lessons. You're getting lessons from the past movements, from I don't know, like liberalists, Sargon's liberalists, but maybe it's also good to take lessons from like, real life movements, from other countries or from the countries that are similar to yours. Like you can't really go to Italy. Like Italy is too different. I mean, it is kind of imagine you have kind of based people, but you just have this government that is omnipresent in the minds of people. It's very very oppressive for like entrepreneurs or whatever. Like if you want to start a business in Italy, you will probably not start a business in Italy. Italy has like the lowest amount of private business ownership in Europe,
yeah.
maybe even the world, really.
Well,
Not counting the African countries.
well, this kind of gets back to the initial point we were talking about with like the clash of civilizations. Like, you know, Italy and Spain and the Mediterranean, although not Greece. Not Greece. As a matter of fact, Greece is very strange to me because the Greeks seem to be just like a bunch of displaced Anglos who are slightly swarthy. Like, you know, not, for all of the words used to describe the Greeks, incompetent is never one. You know, maybe it was a couple years ago. Oh, Greece can't run their country. That was a grift scheme. They didn't want to pay for anything. The stereotype of Italians is they're incompetent. That's a stereotype of Italians. But the stereotype of Greeks is
And lazy.
yeah, and lazy. And the Greeks, they are like, what's the saying? Trust an Italian before a Jew, trust a Jew before a Greek, trust a Greek before a Serb, and never trust a Romanian.
Well, the Romanian will just steal your trust.
It's true. Well, the Romanian, I don't know, but you know, that Mediterranean world, you take it and you compare it to, like, the United States, and you compare it to something, let's say, like Latin America. And Latin America is a direct product of that Mediterranean world a lot more directly than the United States is. Yeah, the Mediterranean world birthed Rome, but like then there was like a Germanic sort of adoption of Rome that became the Northern European sort of strain, which apotheosized into the United States and Canada to a lesser extent. But like the Mediterranean world went out and made South and Central America and the Caribbean, and it's like no one really considers that world part of the West. We don't consider Brazil part of the West. We don't consider the Caribbean part of the West. We don't consider Mexico part of the West, even though.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, if it's not a part of the West, then what is it?
I think it's like the fourth world. You have the second world, which is like Russia. Russia, maybe China, or something. But then you have, yeah,
The Eurasia, the whole, what is it, the
exactly.
Sino-Soviet bloc, basically, which never really
Yeah,
ceased to
that's the
exist.
second world. And then the third world is, of course, everything that doesn't matter or that tries to matter, but it's just awful, like India, for
Mm-hmm.
example. But then I guess maybe you could just say the fourth world, where it's complete anarchy. And not anarchy in the sense of like Africa, where just people don't really live there, or like it's big, because a lot of Africa is just empty. And not empty like America. It's like nothing grows there, or like, or the forests are there, and of course, jungles and plentiful fields. But I think they have like terrible flies and parasites and like mosquitoes, right? Malaria. So you can't really do anything there, and hostile animals, of course. Um, I don't know, it's weird. Would you consider some parts of America like the third world at this point?
Parts of America have always been the third world. Um, like, and the thing is like that's part of what makes America actually really potent on the world stage. Is actually we're one of the most, like, Russia. A lot of it is pretty bad, but there's only so bad Russia can get. Like, I'd put up, any of our ghettos against the worst Russian village as like if it was a competition as to see where was a shittier place to live. Um, you know, the United States is one of the most stark places in terms of you have one place on one side of the river that is like just the apotheosis of world historical wealth. And then on the other side, it's basically like a regression to some kind of less sophisticated way of life, almost like a, when I hear, Bapites, and I don't dislike Bap or anything he says. I mean, he's not a Christian, and there's going to be obvious disagreements between us, but you know, when these people are talking about like returning to tradition and going back to the warrior mindset, I just think of ghettos. I just think of these places where these blacks
Mm,
have been doing that for the past however long they've
I
been
mean, it's
doing
just
it.
like I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of a warrior mindset that you can go back to. So, this is a story that my dad told me when he. This was what? It was like 1980s Ukraine. My dad was on a train with his dad, and his dad is or was, because he died a few years ago, but he was an aviator in the army. He never served in combat, but he was an instructor. He was like a sergeant, I think. Uh, and he was also Russia's first, or Soviet Union's first, cybernetics professor. I think he even wrote like a manual on cybernetics for the Soviet Union. And not cybernetics, as in like like robot parts. We're talking about the purest understanding of cybernetics, the logic chains, the self-fulfilling prophecies, the feedback loops, stuff like that. And he was a military man through and through. Mm. And so they were riding on this train, and there was a drunkard there, and the drunkard started getting touchy, right? He started like saying bullshit and like getting up to women and whatever. And my father's dad, my grandpa, came up to him and slapped him hard like a few times, and then came back to standing with my father. Uh, and like this application of force was done without, and of course the drunkard stopped doing like anything he sees. Uh, but this application of force, like the force for the sake of force, I guess, like not a personal distaste for someone. Maybe that's the warrior mindset of like where you just you don't do it because like I don't know, you have a hatred for someone that you're fighting. You're really doing it because like you're good at it, and everyone understands it. Everyone really feels like whatever you're doing, you won't ever sleep on it. You know that your force exists without you. It's something other than man. It's transcendental. And I think that's what they're talking about. It's when you don't have to worry about becoming soft because power is something that inhabits you, but isn't like beholden to your human whims. You
Hmm.
know? So I think that's what, and of course with niggas you can't say that. With blacks, you really can't say that force is outside of them. It's transcendental. No, they get angry and they punch and they're not really good at it. But of course, they got guns now. And they're not even really good at shooting because there's so many of them, and because there's so many guns, and because the government basically allows them to do all of this because they kill kulaks and they it's horrible. I don't know, maybe the American government just hates Americans, and that's why they let all this stuff happen. Because like, not even in Russia, and Russia doesn't really like ethnic Russians, like Russians. Um, it doesn't just allow like Chechens to run around and like riot, right? Like it, of course, it does allow them to do bad things because there's people like them in police, but it's not as bad. It's not like what happened during like the Saint Georgios Floidios defender of the Bosphorus riots, right? Until Bosphorus is safe, I shall not draw bread. That, that was crazy. That was crazy. The stuff that happens in the ghettos in America. I mean, in Russia it's like bad, but it's just bad because everyone's drugged up or like drunk, and so they have like psychopathic explosions of violence where like men beat their women and women beat their children, men beat their children, men fight each other, and like I guess bandits exist who like rape children and like beat children up in schools. Like there are entire schools in the Far East that are completely colonized by bandits, where bandits implement like the horrible like um, hmm, sadistic, I get, but I was like sodomizable. I don't know how to say it. It's like sodomy laden regime onto schools, and like children have to bring money to those prisons to put in the Yapshak, which is like the uh like pub public collection for like criminals, where they have like money once they get out. And yeah, it all happens. It's just that, of course, you can live your entire life and not get like riots, not see a riot, or not see people stealing from the shop. And of course, if someone steals from the shop, you can beat them up. And if someone comes into your house and breaks into your house, you can shoot them, or you can beat them up, or you can throw them out of a window. A lot of times, all that stuff is not going to be like investigated. Like, you won't have to spend a day in a police department. Um, Guns are not that difficult to get, but still stupidly difficult. Like this, uh, but yeah, and I don't know. I don't know why this is happening in America. Really, it's crazy, dude. Like, everyone thinks it's insane. Um,
Well,
There.
Bobby, I'm gonna go get another cup of coffee, and then we'll
Okay.
continue.
And
We're
then we'll
never
continue.
we're never
Gunpowder
gonna
Club.
finish this game.
Oh,
We're we're
we are.
never gonna finish
We're,
this game.
we have a bunch of games. They already have public dueling. Public dueling is legal for blacks in America. You can just like shoot each other and no one cares. Right. Like no one cares about black on black, whatever. Black on black slime. And there's more of them. It's like 13% is just eternal. You can't heal that with abortion. You can't like only if Americans decide to like send them off to Siberia, right? Let's make a big deal between America and Russia. We'll say you can bring your blacks to Siberia. Paul, this is the deal that will solve Russian American relations once and for all. We say, all your blacks they can go into Siberia.
Well,
And
well, actually, Bobby. So I hate to tell you this, but you've just discovered my Manifest Destiny 2 idea. Um, so I have two ideas. One is Greater Liberia. One is Manifest Destiny 2. All right. The blacks are going to Greater Liberia.
Liberia 2.0. Where's it located?
So basically, we're going to use our massive military to conquer all of the surrounding area in West Africa. The French be damned. Um,
At this point, the French aren't French.
yeah.
It's,
And so we're
it's
going
not
to have
French.
this massive penal colony in West Africa, ruled over by basically prison wardens. And we're going to offer all of our blacks, and I guess our prisoners in general, a one-time payment or
$50,000.
something like that. Yeah, and it's like go over to Liberia and just live there. And this works because a clause in Liberia's constitution states that all Negroes born anywhere in the world have right of return. It's kind of like Israel. If you're a black man, you can go get citizenship in Liberia, which is, I think, very powerful. And so the whole thing is, it's like, all right, it's basically, it would make an Australia. Basically, it would make a black Australia or something like that in West Africa. And it would just be all of our prisoners. We would just send all of our prisoners there. And they could do what they do in that zone. But that's Greater Liberia. Then there's Manifest Destiny 2. Manifest Destiny 2 is we start. Okay, look, I hate to tell you this, Bobby, but if Westerners are not constantly moving west, then they kind of go absolutely crazy, which we're seeing now.
Yeah, but
So,
eventually the east becomes west if you're always moving west.
well, and eventually the west becomes east because the east is always chasing the west. Europe is getting orientalized, and eventually America will be orientalized, but by that point we'll have jumped ship. But look, Bobby,
Hmm.
unfortunately, we're going to have to start landing Anglo-American families on the Siberian coast, and we're gonna just have to start telling them push west. I'm sorry, Bobby. Unfortunately, it's how it's going to have to be.
Push west, yeah, from
Yeah.
man, minus 70 cold is bad. I don't think you even get that in Alaska.
No,
You
you
do get
don't.
that in Yakutsk.
You don't.
And people
But
live there.
I mean, it's true. But I mean, the thing is like we got Americans who live in that, or at least live in the cold, and they'll adapt. You know, it's land of opportunity is what it is. But you know, you land them there,
So,
and
you
they
know, Yakutsk has a population of 323,000 people,
yep.
right? And minus 70. It had minus 70. 300,000 people. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Bobby, we haven't even gotten through one chapter. All right.
But okay,
Let's
speaking of Oriental inventions and Orientalism, the gunpowder.
Yeah, the aging businessman puts down his knife and fork and dabs at his lips with a napkin.
Dabs! Fucking puts down his knife and fork and dabs.
His eyes, however, study you intently all the while. How do you know that, Brante? Who else knows what you just told me? I trust you, but can I trust your people? You assure Egmont that his secret is safe with you, but sooner or later the secret chancellor will find out about the illegal use of gunpowder in his mind and exploit it as leverage against him. The industrial's fingers drum a nervous rhythm on the table. He sighs. You're right, the risk is too big. I suppose I'll have to keep my appetites humble, even if it means closing down several mines. As for your request, I don't think I can agree. Gunpowder will make it obvious that I was involved. I'm not going to ask how you plan to use the explosives, but you're bound to make some noise. The secret chancellor will take note of it, and then they'll come after me for sure. But you are already plotting a revolt, you tell Egmont. This path leads to the gallows one way or another. If the revolt fails, there is no way to escape execution. The die has been cast, victory or death. It is too late to be afraid of the Empire now. When explosions shake the city, your destiny will be decided on the streets, not in the dungeons of the secret chancellery. Egmont thinks for several minutes, then finally decides. Very well, Brante, you speak the truth. This is worth the risk. I'll give you 5 barrels of the powder and get rid with the rest at once. Get rid of the rest. That's how you properly say that. Good luck out there, Brante. Use this weapon wisely, and be careful with it. Gunpowder is an insidious and unpredictable force. It doesn't care who or what it destroys. A few days later, you transport the barrels to your secret warehouse. No other soul must ever know where you are hiding this perilous cargo. The power of destruction now rests at your hands. You feel excitement and a touch of dread. Ooh, yay! We got an achievement.
The achievement. Oh, look at that. Receive a large supply of gunpowder. Pretty cool.
Call of the Ancestors. Today is the big day. Today is a big day for the Brante family. The day your family line started. The day when you remember all your ancestors. Tonight, everyone who bears the name Brante must descend into the family crypt to keep vigil by the tombs. This is the time to surrender yourself to your ancestors and hear their will. The entire family prepares for the event in silence. Stefan has been choosing his apparel since morning, praying anxiously under his breath all the while. The heir has a special place in the family vigil. Even Mother is planning to go with you, though Father tries to talk her out of it.
We're gonna see the grandpa. We're gonna
Lydia.
hear his anguished cries.
Lydia, I beg of you, stay home. You are far too weak for an all-night vigil in the crypt. Gloria, would you be so kind as to stay with your mother since you cannot join us anyway? Gloria answers in a muffled voice. As you wish, Sir Robert. The late Sir Gregor would only be enraged to see Mother there. We all remember how their last encounter ended. Father nods curtly, avoiding Gloria's gaze. But at that moment, your attention is drawn to a noise in the foyer. Nathan staggers through the door, stumbling over his own feet. He reeks of cheap wine and filth. I'm not, late, am I? Everyone gazes at him in consternation. Nathan almost falls into Mother's and Gloria's arms. Distressed, they fuss over him. Stefan eyes his youngest brother coldly. I expected nothing more of you, Nathan. Why even speak of duty to your family when you can't even manage to live by the commoner's lot? Go lie down in the pantry and stay out of our sight. Father, Paul, it's time. Let's go. Alongside Father and Stefan, you descend into the family crypt. You cannot help but remember paying your last respects to your grandfather 9 years ago. You light the lamps. Dim, eerie flames illuminate the shrine. In the middle of it stands a magnificent stone tomb containing the long-decayed remains of Gregor Brante. You take your places around the crypt and kneel. The all-night vigil has begun. At first, your ancestors remain silent. Each of you is left with their own thoughts. Then a low murmur passes around you. The shadows in the corners of the room deepen. The voices grow stronger. You know that the ancestors of Gregor Brante, long-forgotten commoners whom you never knew, are trying to talk to you. But now a memory of them has come to life in the darkness of the crypt. They are pleading for something, demanding it of you, calling out to you, screaming. Finally, you all hear the painfully familiar, deep, imperious voice echo from the far end of the chamber. been a long time since I've seen you all. I hope you bear good tidings. All this time I've been waiting for you to fulfill my mission. Remember, as long as I am in your blood, I will give you no peace. I did not have my family a noble just to see our line cut short. Our blood tide must join the grand flow of the empire, and then each of my descendants will inherit nobility forever and ever. But I do not see any of you before my tomb. Where are you hiding? Where is the head of our family, the man who will speak to me? Where is the man who will heed my will? Father rises from his knees and makes his way toward grandfather's stone tomb, the source of that booming voice, but Stefan suddenly pushes him out of the way. Father takes an indignant step forward, but Stefan firmly bars the way. Stop it, Stefan. You are my heir, but you are not the head of this family. Father, it is not you that Sir Gregor is addressing. Earning the nobility of the sword is my duty to him. He has long forsaken any hope of seeing you achieve it. You must understand that I am the one who will fulfill that duty. Stefan does not let him pass. Father breathes heavily in anger. You can all but feel the frantic beating of both their hearts resonating somewhere within you. Both your father and brother seem to have forgotten that you are here too. Even the restless voices of your ancestors have grown hushed, waiting for the outcome of this confrontation.
Oh, well, this one's tough. I don't know what happened. Oh, it is. Look, I think we'd rather. I think we gotta support Stefan. He kind of doesn't dislikes us, so maybe he should like us. No.
To be quite honest, I mean, I don't really care about. Look, Bobby,
Yeah.
this is the John Milton Solemn Providence playthrough. We do not like upstart nobles.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, then it's father then. 'Cause- I mean, then again, he's not just an upstart noble. He's our yeah. And then you clicked it. You clicked it. Come on.
I click
Come
it.
on, Paul.
I click it. Here's the thing. I click. You're a couple seconds behind. I click it because you say, "Oh yeah, well yeah, that's it," and then I click it.
Then wait a couple seconds.
LMFAO.
He's not just an upstart noble. He's our brother.
Yes, but you know, John Milton respects the authority of the thought of
John
the
Milton
father.
has no brothers.
He respects his father's authority. Yeah,
John Milton is literally me.
We've only died once, which I guess is
pretty good.
Which I guess is good because we're gonna probably die quite a few times. Yeah, these are all the characters that you can see at various different points in no matter what playthrough you do. You block Stefan's way. Your ponderous voice fills the dark crypt. You demand that your brother step back. The head of your family is your father, Robert Brante, and so it will be as long as he lives. Could your brother have forgotten that it is part of the noble lot to acknowledge and honor seniority? Your father is the man who must hear and accept your ancestors' will. Stefan tries to maintain his composure, but even in the dark you can see his face twitch. Brother, you don't understand. I'm not denying father's seniority, but I am the man who bears this duty to our grandfather. I cannot remain a mere witness while the future of our blood tide runs through our fingers. You resolutely push your brother to one side. Whether he wants to or not, he will give way to the head of the family. Father catches his breath and approaches grandfather's tomb. So it's you, Robert. Have you come to disappoint me yet again? Stefan is right. I did not put my hopes in you for quite some time. If anyone will lead the Brante family to glory, it will be my grandson. Stefan clenches his fist and whispers something to himself. I am doing my utmost, father. We are closer to becoming nobles of the sword than ever before. The overseer looks upon us with favor. Just a couple more years and your dream will come true. This must be your dream too, Robert, but you still cater to your foundlings, Lydia and Gloria, risking a permanent blemish upon the Brante name. My name! Dead though I may be, my will lives on, heeded at last. Get rid of that trollop, Gloria, and devote yourself to your true family. Otherwise you will lead our family to shame and ruin. Father hesitates for a moment. No, father.
What a word, trollop.
Trollop.
Look at that.
No, father, this is impossible. Even if I must defy your will, I am responsible for Gloria. My honor and my conscience will not allow me to do what you demand. You must accept this or keep fighting me for all eternity. The voice of your deceased ancestor fades away. He seems to have left this realm, but then his voice suddenly booms from the other side of the crypt. Stefan, you are the heir of this family. Your duty by blood is to earn us a place in eternity. Do not take after your spineless father. Do what must be done. Cleanse our family of wickedness. Stefan is shivering. He replies in an unsteady voice, but Gloria, I can't. Stefan checks himself. I will do my duty to my father, Sir Gregor. Whatever the price, I will pay it. Or to my family, whatever. The crypt is completely silent once more. You are alone again. You see tears glistening on Stefan's face. Without uttering a word, he goes outside. Father clasps his arms firmly around you. You feel him let out a sigh of sorrow and relief. The vigil is over. Stefan hates us. Our father likes us a little bit.
This taste.
Yep. Our family is getting more unified, though, and we expended some willpower to do that. But we still got plenty of willpower.
Yeah. Plenty.
It has been a month since Sophia left the city on Felipe's urgent orders. You have no idea where she went. Until she returns, the last straw has been laying low. You have to tend to the print shop all by yourself. Early morning. Father Fouad welcomes you to the print shop. He looks like he was asleep just a moment ago himself. He gets up from his makeshift bed of crates and beckons you closer with a finger. Brante, I've got something to tell you, young man. So I made my rounds last night, so to speak. I stopped by a few flap houses, hit a few taverns and other dens of iniquity, and I met a young man we could use. Not sure if we can trust him, though. His name's Gustave. He told me he comes from Eterna, says he's on the run from the secret chancellery. He insists he was with the underground there in the capital, the Lotless, they're called. They were responsible for that March of the Collars 4 years back. So Gustave tells me all the Lotless were nabbed by secret chancellery spooks. Spooks! Spooks! After their march, he thinks the Anizate underground could be in danger too. The trouble is, that's all he told me. He's not exactly a trusting fellow. I think one of us ought to talk to him, find out who he is and what he knows. He looks shady, if you ask me, but maybe we could use him here. What do you say, young man? You thank Fouad for the information. You will think about how to meet with Gustave yourself. Just give me the word, young man, and I'll set it up. Fouad bows, stretches, and walks off to the printing press. You sigh, trying to steady the furious beating of your heart. Gustave was one of your trusted agents back in Eterna. If he gets too friendly with the last straw in Anizate, your name will come up eventually. You do not think that Gustave ever found out that the Lotless were established on Felipe's order. But still, he knows that you were deeply involved in the march. That alone might be enough for him to dismantle your cover story here in Anizate. You needed to deal with this problem as quickly as possible.
Wow, that's a lot of it. This one's tough. What would he do?
Oh, if only we had a slight bit more scheming.
Maybe we can level up our scheming to lure Gustave into the trap. But then again, we don't need the trap. I mean, he was a trusted guy. He'll understand.
Well, we're not doing. You can do this playthrough with working for Felipe, but we're not doing that. We're instead, fomenting Solemn Providence's revolt. And this is also the only one that uses this destiny that we had.
I think we need it. Yeah, we definitely need.
We'll explain ourselves to him.
I think we'll level up eloquence. Oh, it's good, We do need to. Dear old Mr. Milton needs to learn how to speak with you.
Just a little bit.
I'll talk to a crown. Jordan Peterson style, baby.
You come to a decrepit shack by the city wall. Your eyes gradually adjust to the darkness as you step inside. You see dirty drapes hanging over a small window. The floor is rotten and creaky. Gustave is sitting on a wooden crate. He is clutching a small meat cleaver. You greet Gustave with a nod. He grips the handle tighter in response. You show him your palms to prove you are unarmed. How is your old comrade in arms doing? You are happy to see him. Gustave smirks grimly. Yeah, right. I know all about you in the Lotless, so don't try to play games with me. I gotta get out of the city, and you're gonna help me do it, or I'll tell him how young Sir Brante got the commoners to march back there in the capital. You got a noble family, yeah? They'd be tickled pink, wouldn't they? You ask Gustave to put the weapon down. There's no reason to threaten you. You are here to help. The nervous man considers your words, and then slowly puts the cleaver on the floor. You step closer and sit next to him. You tell Gustave that some of the Lotless managed to evade the secret chancellery. Omitting certain details, you name other members you were able to rescue from the slaughter. For all you know, they could still be fighting the good fight. They could be fighting. Yeah, they messed up. Sorry, I have to nitpick.
For all you know, they could still be fighting the good fight in the third half.
Yeah, I have to nitpick Russians using English. No, it's minor mistakes. It's only it's not like
sometimes. I think we've seen less than 10 mistakes. The one that appears constantly is the gentry one.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's a thing that most Americans don't even know. Like, that's just like our particular autism. Like, no, the gentry is this, the gentry is that.
fighting. Keep fighting for Anazan.
Omitting certain details, you name other members you were able to rescue from the slaughter. For all you know, they could still be fighting the good fight in Eterna. Your struggle against Imperial rule is far from over, you assure him. This is why you come back to Anizate to keep fighting. But I thought you just ran off, sold us out, and disappeared, so I guess I was wrong? Yes, he was wrong. You tell him about the last straw. This is bigger than the march now. You are planning a full-fledged revolt. You are organized and well-trained, and you still need people who are willing to fight for freedom. You offer Gustav a job and a place to stay. Will he join you once more? Will he keep fighting? Gustav nods eagerly. There are tears in his eyes. Yes, 1,000 times yes. I was so wrong about you, Paul. I thought I was all alone. I thought the fight was over and we lost. I'm sorry. I hope you can forgive me. I'm on our side. Our cause is just. You pat your old friend on the back. You have one request for him, however. Gustav must never tell a soul about the Lotless and your and Sophia's part in the march. You do not want the members of the new organization to be discouraged by your past failures. There's no room for error now. Even the slightest mishap could ruin everything. He nods in understanding. All right, my lips are sealed. I'll never mention the Lotless to you again, or to anyone else for that matter. You shake on it. 2 years.
Oh, Clea, finally.
2 years.
2 years of peacetime. More like 3 days.
Powder keg. The air is chilly, the sun is set. You make your way toward the city walls, avoiding busy streets. There, by an old grain warehouse, you have an appointment with Sophia. She wanted to speak to you face to face. Is she afraid of being overheard? She's already there, leaning on the old wall and smoking her pipe. She greets you with a nod. I'm glad you got here quick. Listen up. We've been in Anizate for a while now. I've seen how you handle things with the last straw. I think I can trust you. I need to ask you a favor. It's for the last straw, but Felipe can never find out about it. I need gunpowder, and I need it now. I led you to this stuff, and now I want you to tell me where they are hiding it. You ask Sophia what she needs the gunpowder for. The young woman squints and looks at you in the eye. To get people riled up. To start the revolt. Don't expect any details. You know how it goes. The longer the chain, the easier it breaks. You find out soon enough. For now, the question is whether you trust me or not. Just give me the gunpowder and keep your trap shut. Think you can handle that?
Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Sophia, me and you. We're gonna go from unrest. No, we don't need to refuse. We're in it for the biscuit. Risk it for the biscuit.
You draw a map on the ground with the tip of your boot. There is a small mountain ridge half an hour to the east of the south gate. There used to be a quarry there. You stash the gunpowder in one of the tunnels. Sophia studies your sketch intently, then wipes away with your foot. I'm glad to see I was right about you. Thanks. When the time comes, I'll be able to help both of us. Once she has the gunpowder, Sophia waits her time. The first blast detonates in front of the Chancellor. The grand statue of Emperor Uther falls from its pedestal and shatters, strewing rubble across the square. Another blast. A wall of the Inquisition ward falls. Several champions of faith are killed. About a dozen apostates manage to escape in the chaos. A third blast. The bridge over the brine near Anizate collapses. A caravan of Archduke Milanidas' tax collectors are lost in the turbulent waters. This is clearly just the beginning. Sophia is not one to rest on her laurels. The Overseer is livid. The Prefecture raids manufacturers and mine owners, but cannot find a single superfluous gunpowder keg. The citizens are agitated. Rumors about the bombers run rampant. Some say they are criminals who escaped from the mines. Others are convinced that witches are behind the explosions. There's also a rumor that the explosions were set off by enemies of the Empire. That everyone is equally horrified by the deadly, merciless force of gunpowder. It spares no one. All are equal before it. Nobles die in explosions just like commoners or clergymen. The fear that has paralyzed the people begins to erode. The commoners are now armed with a weapon capable of destroying an entire army. It does not take them long to come to grips with this. The last straw's ranks continue to swell.
Ed Kaczynski style, brother.
Those who had doubts are now free of them. The call for freedom resounds louder and louder on the streets of Anizate. A few powder kegs were enough to shatter the illusion of the Empire's invincibility. Sophia's plan worked. Magra order, what is it? And then unrest goes up.
Ready for the struggle. Yeah, what was it? Lotless of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your scars.
So true. Just a few days into the year, Mayor Egmont, chairman of the Lesser Quorum and owner of Silver Mines, made a speech that caused quite a stir in the province. Though a commoner, Egmont had the gall to demand that the Magran authorities both enforce and obey imperial law. What's the use of imperial laws if they aren't enforced as they should be? Even today, any Anizate nobleman who gets up on the wrong side of the bed can draw a sword and run a commoner through with impunity. These gentlemen may be our rulers, but does that mean they can defy the Emperor's will? Sir Elborne has been appointed to enforce the rule of law in Magna. How come the prefect doesn't see this? We commoners aren't trying to seize the noble lot and take over the province, but we are. But the rule of tradition is a thing of the past. This is the age of justice. We may not be equal in its eyes, but even the nobles and the clergy must obey the law. The Magnan aristocracy is furious with Egmont and demands that he be silenced, but the rich industrialist has too much money and too many connections to be dealt with so easily. You hear more and more rumors about secret societies of commoners appearing in the city, plotting against noble rule. The gentry fears that Egmont and his peers might be behind this, but they have no proof, at least for now. Father Leonard, abbot of the Temple of the Silver Tree and leader of the New Believers, supports Egmont and has spoken publicly in his favor. The twins themselves entrusted the noble estate with the right to rule over the common folk, but the rulers must also care for their subjects. The old faith is mistaken. No commoner should ever be forced to suffer. It is for this very reason that the imperial law exists. It is there to ease the people's suffering. May those laws be duly enforced, and may they serve all the people of the empire. Oh. You know, one of the funny things about this game, Bobby, is that a lot of these stats just don't matter.
Yeah, but they're still cool. It doesn't matter that they don't matter.
Yeah, well, that's the paradox, isn't it? It does not.
Oh, okay. So if you, this is a big issue in Russian philosophy and like modern age literature, is that to what degree are you in control of a narrative, right? You see it in politics, you see it in the reality that most like big meme pages are operated by Russians. It is a mystery, right? Like in Pathologic 1, for example, at the very end, the truest ending is when you come into into a room and you see a sandcastle. It's a garden. You see a sandcastle, and the sandcastle was your game, and the people making the sandcastle are developers, and you have a conversation with the devs of the game, and they tell you, well, you enjoyed the story. I mean, you knew that the whole story wasn't real when you began playing it, because, well, it's a game. Why are you now so upset that inside of the game was not like, it was also a story? And and it's a big mystery. Like, why are we so upset when we already know that something isn't like real, isn't impacted by us, because it's already pre-programmed? But then when we are told by the pre-programmed thing that it is pre-programmed, when it is revealed, we're somehow like angry or incensed that, oh, we didn't have enough choice. Well, you never had any choice. Everyone told you that you have no choice. The game itself tells you. Game. Sometimes they hear. And everyone like Zero Punctuation likes to talk about. Have you ever seen Zero Punctuation?
I have not.
It's Yahtzee. He makes like weird game reviews. I think like from 2006 to today. Like nearly every week one comes out. But yeah, he likes to say this, that like, oh, well, your choices don't matter. But I mean, like they don't, and they never did, because like the game is there and there's only a limited amount of choices that you can make. Your character can't just do whatever you tell him to. Like, he can't just take out a knife and like stab his mother in the face, like in the first chapter. And like, of course, you don't have that choice. You have a specific amount of choices. And I think maybe if the story is like just bad, or maybe the story isn't complete, and then it tells you that you can turn the story, you can add things to it, that I don't know. It's and Russia really struggles with this. You can see it with the inability to maintain narrative control outside of Russia, the inability for its own populace to accept propaganda as it is given, because like it doesn't matter that like Putin is good or bad. A very important part is that no one really believes the government, and even if it's good, like even if it's something that they do believe, but they don't believe it in a way that they need to believe it. Not like Italians. Italians believe it whole cloth. Vaccination rates here were like 86%. well, in Russia, they were like 20, and out of those 20, a lot of people just got fake, paid doctors. And it's weird. It's not really a rejection of destiny, but maybe it's that uh, your choices only matter when they are when the when everything surrounding them matters. If you can just make choices, then no one cares about that. But if you can make choices within an environment that is, um, it's decorated, it's like within a good environment, maybe then they matter. Maybe then like destiny takes a backseat.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's see. We'll have chat with the magistrate. Oh, wonderful. We're gonna get fucked.
Your heart is pounding madly in your chest. You gasp desperately for air, paralyzed by fear. Two burly young men have just pulled a sack over your head and shoved you into a carriage. Who could have done this? Are they Felipe's men, members of the Last Straw, someone else with a grudge against you? Where are they taking you? Can you even hope to survive this day? The carriage comes to a stop. They drag you out, get you on your feet, and force you to walk. You march down long hallways in complete silence. Then at last they sit you in a chair. Get that thing off his head. I can't talk to him like that, can I? A hand wrenches the sack off your head. Light stabs you in the eyes as you gasp for air. Once your eyes adjust, you see a dining table covered in years of dust. This is a noble mansion, abandoned long ago. The paint is peeling and the glazed gilt trim is cracked and faded. The once magnificent furniture is covered in rust and cobwebs. In the midst of this withered splendor, you see a man who is known to all, the magistrate of Anizate, Sir Remy El Verman. I suppose you've caught your breath by now, eh, Brante? Let's have a little chat, shall we? First, the obvious. I know what you are, and I know who you work for. I know your family. I have the power to ruin you and your father and everyone else you care about. If anyone ever hears about this conversation, I will crush you before you can blink. But I didn't arrange this meeting just to threaten you. I'm prepared to offer you something, salvation. A glib smile spreads across El Verman's face. Now, let's move on to the meat of our little tete-a-tete. I don't know how to say that. Tete-a-tete. You're in a real pickle, Bronte. You will never escape Felipe's iron grip. He will continue to use you as long as you remain useful. At the moment that usefulness ends, he will deem you an obstacle and eliminate you. However, I would like to extend to you an offer of protection. If you help me, I will keep you safe from Felipe and the Secret Chancellery. I'm aware of Felipe's scheme to obtain special authority from the Overseer. The old dog is hungry for power, but I have enough on my plate as it is. What with El Borne's prefecture and Egmont's lesser quorum, the Secret Chancellery is supposed to safeguard imperial rule, but instead, Felipe is playing a game of his own in my city. Anizate does not need another man who treats it like a plaything for acting out his utopian fantasies. This is a disaster waiting to happen. If the Secret Chancellery ever gets discretionary powers, no one will ever be able to stand in his way, especially commoners like you. Part of me thinks, Bobby, that the real John Milton Solemn Providence playthrough, we would have been helping Felipe.
Yeah, you think so?
Too late now. Too late now.
Too late now. We're still helping him. He just doesn't know that we're also not helping him.
Yeah, but like we've made the choices earlier in the playthrough as to like, we're doing the revolt with Sophia. Like we gave Sophia the gunpowder, all this other stuff. So
yeah, it's true, but he kind of expected that.
Yeah.
He expected the revolt. So for now, I think his plans are still moving forward. He might be incensed that they're not moving forward as quickly as, but all of this plays into his hands. In fact, Remy, the rat man, right? He's here. He's telling you that Felipe is proceeding and fucking up his country. So nothing's really happening. Felipe is still here. I think we're still on track.
Okay.
He's not dead yet,
So here's the deal, Bronte. You help me rid Anizate of the Lesser Quorum and all the other rebels and rabble-rousers, and I'll save you from Felipe. I already know that Mayor Egmont and his cronies are connected to your secret network, and knowing the Secret Chancellery, I'm quite certain you've made a note of Egmont's every last misdeed. Once you have enough evidence to put good old Mayor behind bars or in a noose, bring me everything you've got on him and the other upstarts. Felipe will be left empty-handed. With Egmont out of the picture, I'll be free to disband the Lesser Quorum and rule the city in peace, and then I'll finally drive Felipe out of Anizate, which means that you will go free, I will rule as I should, and the city of Anizate will return to normal. No blood will be shed, there will be no more plotting, no more need to pretend. What do you say to that, Bronte?
Evade the question. I don't know. Maybe more deals? Do we need more deals?
We
Or do
need.
we need more diplomacy and more reputation?
Well, we get the reputation either way. Personally, Bobby, we're here to make deals.
Yeah, we want to make deals with everyone. Let's make deals with a third person or like
Well,
a fourth person.
we are John Milton. Although
We
we're
just
not.
evaded the question.
Yep, we just evaded the question.
Is he going to kill us?
No,
No. We're going to earn the second mark.
es posible. Trying to undermine Felipe and the secret chancellery would be suicide. Besides, how do you know the magistrate will not get rid of you just the same once the job is done? Yet the magistrate wields great power. To refuse him would make him into yet another fearsome enemy. You rise to your feet and thank Sir Elvermond for his confidence. You are ready to cooperate, you say, but Felipe trusts no one. You are watched at all times. It will take a long time for the magistrate to get the results he wants. The magistrate nods, satisfied with your answer. A wise choice, Brante. My men will see you out, and don't forget the first part of our little chat. We never met. This never happened. You continue sending the usual reports to Felipe, and from time to time you send Elvermond a vague letter. If the magistrate wants to believe you have agreed to his deal, you see no reason to disappoint him. Your web of lies is growing larger and more convoluted by the day, but perhaps this new connection will come in handy. Your home has been much more peaceful for the last year. The fights between Stefan and Gloria are not as fierce now, but how long will this last? Your job takes up all your time. You see your parents and siblings less and less often. Sometimes you don't even know what they are doing while you deal with the constant stream of duties. This morning you head out on urgent business. You take one step out of the gate and run into a uniformed gendarme. Paul Brante, your presence is requested at the prefecture dungeon. Taken aback, you ask what this is about. We have your brothers Stefan and Nathan Brante in a cell. They were arrested last night at the Steiner's Inn. They asked us to send for you. The cells in the prefecture dungeon are cold and damp. The guards lead you to the bars, and behind them you see Nathan huddled in a corner. Your younger brother is unshaven, more disheveled than usual, and reeking of wine and filth. Wine and filth. Near the cell you see Stefan grimly sitting in a chair. You guess that the gendarmes thought it best not to put him in the same cell as his low-born brother. Upon seeing you, Nathan lets out a whimper, and Stefan cracks a bitter smile. The sheath on your brother's belt is empty. There you are at last, Paul. Have a look at our younger brother. Yesterday he got drunk in the company of some dubious fellows. They are commoners, and yet they dared to surrender to pleasure. They started a brawl, wrecked the inn, and harassed the waitresses. As soon as I heard, I rushed to save this drunkard from shame. Nathan cowers into the corner, horror-struck. I walked in and demanded that Nathan come with me, but his cronies wouldn't let him go. That's not true. You just grabbed me by the collar and dragged me after you. You nearly suffocated me. Shut your mouth, cur. So, brother, they seem to have some sort of sect. They all shouted defamations against the twin gods, and one of them grabbed me by the arm. I was forced to skewer this heretic with my sword. I hope a lesser death will teach him never to lay his filthy paws on a nobleman. He was just trying to talk to you, Stefan. Silence. Then the gendarmes barged in, and here we are. I have been accused of an unlawful murder. Apparently the new laws allow killing a commoner only if he attacks first or wields a weapon. They say that in the event of an insult, I'm supposed to file a complaint with the prefecture. So now they're going to seize my sword for a whole year. What a shame. And it's all your fault, Nathan. Stefan gives the bars a furious kick. Nathan covers his face with his hands in despair. Paul, brother, you are our only hope. Get me my sword and back and get us out of here. And fast. We have to bury this sordid affair as deep as we can before anyone finds out. Save our family.
Oh shit, refuse to help. I don't know, but that sounds awesome. That sounds like great. Like, well, we can't do anything, but we can refuse to help. Everyone will hate us. Reputation goes down. Well, we can actually spare some unity. We can't really spare reputation, right? But nothing else. Look at that. No eloquence. Nothing.
You know, if we had just built our spy network instead of, you know,
instead of printing books.
Yeah, probably we could do that.
Trying to make terrible deals, eating duck with the aristocrat. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Refuse to help sounds good too, because it gives us some willpower. I mean, both of them could happen, right? Milton didn't have a dad. You know, he was born out of the depths of hell.
Well, Milton would be like
the birthing pits of the inferno.
Milton would say some stuff like, you know, this is the bed you all made, now sleep in it.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right, it was a righteous punishment for both of them. Whatever. Reputation be damned. Let them Let them wallow in their own filth.
Yes.
Um,
We care only about money, Bobby.
money, 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 money.
We will make Stefan hate us more and Nathan slightly hate. You icily tell Stefan that he will have to bear the consequences of his actions as himself as befits a nobleman. You will not interfere. Do you think I'm pleading for myself, Paul? I can withstand any blow. That commoner's death wasn't my fault. All I'm concerned about is our family's reputation, but you don't seem to care about it at all. Nathan stares dully at the stones beneath his feet. You turn around and leave. For the crime of killing a commoner, Stefan is publicly forbidden to carry a sword for a year. This is where father and the rest of the family become aware of the incident. After the verdict, Stefan spends his days secluded in his chambers. He does not travel or take part in social life. Your idle brother cannot bear the shame of being seen without a sword. Nathan's sentence.
Like make a wooden sword. You know?
So hold on, let me look at our destiny real quick. Let me look at the possible destinies we can
Nathan
have.
has sent us to hard labor. Ooh. What's happening to us?
We're gonna get branded by dishonor.
Based. Let's go. Let's get branded by dishonor. We don't need honor where we're going. What we need is family unity and I don't know, Sneed and Feed. We're gonna open up Sneed, Seed and Feed.
I mean, I guess it doesn't automatically trigger.
Freedom of speech. Oh shit, this guy, I hate him. He's awful.
Your print shop has been graced by an unusual guest today, a short man of considerable age dressed in the brown cassock of a priest. The smile appears on his round face. Good morning, young man. You must be the owner of this splendid print shop. I've heard so much about you in this wonderful place of yours. You ask the visitor his name. What brings him to your print shop? Ah, yes, my apologies. I am Mark, Father Mark, if you will. There's a certain matter I hope you can help me with. I have learned much during my many years in this world, but alas, our time here is short. And like everyone else, I will eventually have to face the ruthless scrutiny of the twins themselves. However, I would like the truths that have been revealed to me to live on after I shuffle off this mortal coil, which is why I've come to you. I've written a book, you see, and now I want you to help me print it. I want the largest print run you can possibly manage. The old priest is clearly not giving you the full picture. Why has he come here of all places? You see, young man, my teachings are a bit bold for a realm that has endured 1,000 years of the twins' tyranny. Even the new faith sees the truths I preach as excessively blasphemous. But your print shop is known for its, shall we say, open-minded approach. I believe you have the fortitude to appreciate my teachings and courage to accept my order. Would Father Mark be so kind as to explain his teachings to you? Another smile, kind-hearted and sly, appeals readily on the monk's face. But of course, my son, by the will of the twins, it is my lot to preach. How could I refuse to instruct those in need? Here is the fundamental principle of my doctrine. Our gods are shit. We don't need them. They say a tree is known by its fruit. Well, if the twins are a tree, then their fruits are will, love, and law. But their will is arbitrary, their love is cruel, and their law is ruthless. The twins don't know the meaning of the word mercy, and all they bring to the world is suffering. Everyone in this world is miserable, regardless of their estate or status, and we will continue to be miserable as long as we continue to accept the burdens of our divine chains. There's only one path to salvation.
Milton stabs Father Mark on stage in front of a roaring crowd.
It's true. There is only one path to salvation in this world. Reject the twins outright. You, and only you, must accept responsibility for your own life. Forge your own secular law. Fill your heart with secular love. Exercise your own secular will and forget all about the twins.
Secular love. That's cringe. But, I mean, that's a very... if I were a regime apparatchik, I would start using that. Secular love. Because like...
Well, it's a weasel word.
It makes sense because you'd be like, well, if parents want to homeschool their children, they're not practicing secular love. Because love can be practiced by anyone, by the teachers, right? And the teachers can give a scientifically proven, scientifically ordered love, right? You can secular love. I see New York Times headlines: secular love. How you can, how you are still trapped in the heteronormative patriarchal God complex. $500 in my pocket.
That might be how we react. But what about the hereafter, you say? What about the final judgment? Eternal torment at the foot of the pillar and never-ending bliss at the peak. Everyone asks me this, and here's what I tell them. What happens to you in the hereafter doesn't matter, because there won't be any you in the hereafter anyway. We will all be dissolved in the twins' own endless will. Out there on the other side of true death, Father Mark will cease to exist, and so will you, young man. That's not true, by the way. This is the kind of people who are saying, well, we all just become one with God again. No,
Oh, Father Mark is cringe.
Father Mark is also wrong because you, Bobby, um, you are. Would you say that you are a Christian? Would you say you're a follower of Christ?
Yes, I would say that I'm Christian.
Okay. Yeah. Do you believe Jesus Christ is the Son of living God?
Yes,
Do you
yes.
believe he
At this
was?
point, yes.
Do you believe he was
Uh,
crucified to redeem all sin?
yes.
Okay, that is the only questions I ask anyone. All right, and that's the only questions in life that need any answer. Um,
It's like you have to say them. You have to say these things. Like even if you are immersed in the ironic modernity and whatever, like these are the things that uh, people before you believed in. Like all of my ancestors believed in. I think that when I go to like to church, when I enter church, and it's a very difficult experience for me. I get very emotional, but I definitely it it all makes sense. It all suddenly makes sense. Like it doesn't matter what we've seen, what movies came out, and what history has passed. Like all of these things are and could only have happened because of these things that Christ did.
yeah.
And so yeah, the Nicene Creed is as correct today as it was
When it was
a
written,
1,000 years ago.
and it will be as correct 1,000 years from now, um, as it is today, as it was 2,000 years
Unless
ago.
unless the second coming arrives,
Yeah, unless the
then
well, but if the second coming happens, all bets are off. Like.
we'll have a new covenant at that point.
Well, the new covenant will have been fulfilled, and then what was it? Then the well, basically, sin will essentially cease to exist, and the world will be redeemed, and once again, in perfect accordance with God's will. Um, Speaking of will, you will have no will. You will make no decisions. You will be incapable of action. In other words, your life will be over. Your existence ends with your true death. Whatever happens to you after that won't really be happening to you. So who cares? So let's all tell the twins to take their bullshit law, their bullshit will, and their bullshit love and shove them straight up their divine asses. Let's cast away the yoke of the gods and live our worldly lives free of this despotic ruthless.
Report,
I can't.
report, report, instantly. Let's cast away the yoke of the gods and live our worldly lives free of their despotic, ruthless rule. Horrible. Like even with all that we know, with all the lawless, like weird bullshit that Sophia says, Sophia still thinks that this guy's awful.
If if
You know,
if if our dad just liked us slightly more.
if only,
Oh
yeah. But
no.
report,
This is literally the only
report.
choice we have.
Yeah, what a horrible piece of shit.
To reject the twins is to deny their law, their will, and their love. To reject the twins is to deny that their empire is blessed and absolute. To reject the twins is to deny that the tempests are chosen by gods themselves to rule. If teachings like Mark begin to spread, there will be unrest the likes of which the province has not seen since the emergence of the new faith. Father Mark is inciting revolt. He is fomenting rebellion against the Tempest, the Empire, and the Twins. You accept Brother Mark's manuscript and promise to print the book as requested. Before the day ends, however, you send the manuscript to Felipe. He responds immediately. Father Mark is a heretic and a renegade. The Inquisition has been hunting this man for years. Thanks to your report, Father Mark has been arrested by the Secret Chancellor. He is no longer a threat to the Empire. He has many followers among the common people. I'll send their names your way. Have a little chat with them. If they believe Father Mark, they should find your ideas quite appealing. Felipe is right. It takes some time to find the right track to take with Mark's disciples, but eventually a few number them agree to join the last straw as informers. After all, the desire for revenge is so easy to exploit. So the funny thing about the spy network and the okay, we're almost halfway through. We're getting there.
There's a guy says the Rick and Morty atheism. Rest in peace. Exactly.
Rick and Morty atheism, Lamau.
Yeah, that guy. I mean, he's even smoking like weed.
Yeah, Rick and
He's
Morty.
smart.
Rick and Morty atheism doesn't tend to last very long when put up to any scrutiny
Well, that's
whatsoever.
the thing because Rick and Morty atheism is not. Ooh, I got a very cool thing to tell you. So, there was a podcast between Old Hype and none other than Billions Must Die Man, aka Ed Dutton, right? And I mean, you don't know who Old Hype is because that's earlier than you. That's like 2014, 2015, 16. Right? he was this like gay guy at some point. He was gay. He was like, well, he still is atheist. And he was a statistician, a self-taught statistician. Um, and he made a bunch of really, really good videos about like HBD and about like American, like, democracy, a lot of dissident rights stuff. But he's got autism, and so he's never really been like social with anyone but Sean Last, pretty much, and some other friends. Uh, and he eventually developed this like idea of, well, why is all this happening? And he said that it's causey people who want to fight for a cause, and it doesn't matter what cause it is, they'll follow it. Um, and all of these like movements, they happen because of that. If only we were all rational beings. And he has a bunch of videos, really, really cringy ones, where he like, he thinks that people are listening to him. The people who are listening to him are committed atheists, and not in the sense of like Reddit Rick and Morty atheist, who isn't really an atheist. It's just that he is so Christian at that point, so immersed in Christian society, that he abstracts Christ um, from Chronicle. He says that this is not something that's written on the page. This is something that is like eternal, that is just part of reality that you don't have to state. And whenever you state it, you're using technology that transforms what happened into something that didn't. Because when we write it on the book, it becomes an expression of us. Christ's sacrifice becomes an expression of us, which is basically idolatry. And that's kind of what a lot of like people in the modern age really believe. That's why they say, "Oh, we're atheists," because there is this. It's like basically that's what I. It's a very postmodern interpretation of it, but I believe that it's like maybe the fear of idolatry, the fear of the mirror, right? Um, but Old Hype was talking to Ed Dutton, and Ed Dutton is religious, not in the idolatry, like not in the postmodern way religious. No, he's like you can see that he's Christian, and he has to convince himself that his belief is according to his rational cybernetics, right? That he can like think of it and then say that he is correct in thinking that way. When in fact, it's probably not like voluntary belief, or it's not. There are like functions that you can make that you have to make voluntary out of those, like prayer, like visiting the church, like reading specific literature, like kind of thinking, like not just praying, like thinking about this stuff, and that's voluntary. But there's the involuntary part, and Ed Dutton really, really wants the involuntary part to be fully conscious. While Old Hype, he really respects Ed Dutton. Like really respects him. He was singing praises to him. And at some point during the discussion, he realizes that Ed Dutton is absolutely not an atheist. And he doesn't know how to deal with it. And so he kind of retreats to that. He doesn't say that he's like an atheist on the stream. It's very interesting to see. And well, Old Hype has to convince himself, or maybe doesn't have to convince himself, because he is such a weird person. Maybe it's autism. Maybe it's just some strange scientists. Because a lot of most scientists during even the great ones, they were all religious. Maybe they were deists, but some of them were committed Christians.
Most all of them have been committed Christians.
Yeah, serious people, but I definitely see that there are some people who are ready to commit horrible things, to commit to degeneracy without, or even to terrible science, just for the sake of science, advanced science for the sake of science, without the purview of God, because they just don't feel it. And Old Hype is one of those people. Like you can see that he never has to believe in anything. He is just the numbers man, and it's spooky. But you can also see see that he is kind of he's not entirely socially unaware because he definitely does not he doesn't tell Ed Dutton that like Frusciante is stupid or that Ed Dutton is wrong or like the oh come on man you really believe in this stuff like they like to do. He never says that, and that might be that's a very interesting thing that I noticed, and I wanted to just pass it on to you.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like you say, you can be so deep in a Christian society that you abstract Christ himself into just a part of the society, which is, you know, it's another way of falling back into paganism, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. But we're gonna keep going. The guns of Illyria. Magra has received alarming news from the neighboring province of Illyria. The lowborn convicts toiling in the Illyrian mines have revolted against their noble masters. For the first time in many long, peaceful years, commoners have taken up arms. Worse yet, the insurgents had guns and gunpowder, and no one knows how they got them. Gunpowder weapons are banned throughout the empire as soon as they were invented. The lords deemed firearms dishonorable and unfit for nobles. Even legion soldiers are forbidden from using them. But now gunshots were echoing through the mutinous Illyrian mines. The imperial legion was deployed to quell the riot. The legionnaires. So, small thing, Bobby. Legionnaires is a French word. It means, and
Legionnaire, because it comes from legionarios.
well, legionaries. Legionaries is the Latin word. Legionaries, but legionnaires is referencing the French Foreign Legion.
Yeah,
And
legionnaire.
the popular vernacular kind of makes them one and the same, but it's not the same. Slaughtered the
Oh
rebels.
yeah, they're not the same. You're right, because the legionnaires were French troops, while here they're not talking about the French troops. They're talking about the like the public the cultural representation of legionaries. So like
Specifically, it's
the
in
Roman
reference to
ones.
the Légion étrangère, or the French Foreign Legion, which in
You think this is a reference to the French one, or is it a reference to the Roman
well,
legionnaires?
it's because of the spelling. Legionnaires is the French word, and that's in reference to members of the French Foreign Legion. Legionaries, which would be Aries with
Ah,
one N.
yeah,
Take out one
yeah, yeah,
N,
sure.
switch the I and the R, and it's in reference to the Roman legions, and that would be proper here. But I mean,
Well,
at the same
maybe
time,
the legions slaughter the rebels without mercy.
though, this game is like the Empire is France, Italy, Europe, or France, Italy,
Mm,
Holy Roman Empire. It's like it's basically not
okay.
the Holy Roman Empire, but like with like French words, So I guess that would be fine. Slaughtered the rebels without mercy, and the uprising choked to death on its own blood before it had even begun. The south of Illyria is now a forest of gallows. The convicts' corpses were left swaying in the wind as a warning to any commoner who might dare to take up arms. Although the rebellion quickly succumbed to the imperial military's onslaught, many legion soldiers and officers were slain by the insurgents' firearms. Their steel armor was no match for bullets. The rioters' weapons were destroyed in a public ceremony, but no one knows who built or smuggled them into the mines. All imperial overseers soon issued public reminders to their provinces. The punishment for owning a gunpowder weapon is true death by execution. Well, even if you look at this like little drawing up here, Bobby, this carriage right here, this is 18th century. This is an 18th century carriage. This cobblestone streets is an 18th century innovation. All these
I mean,
buildings are
19th or still
well,
18th?
18th.
Okay,
But then you see like a 14th century hat over here, and
makes
these
sense.
lampposts I don't think were a thing until like the 19th century. So this is just an amalgamation. Um,
They have some sort of electricity, but it's like weird electricity. They have like magic, right?
yeah,
So I think they're on the cusp of their industrial revolution.
but the Empire is still restless, still anxious. Somehow guns found their way into commoners' hands, if only for a short time. Could gunpowder and lead one day endanger the old ways of the Empire? Authorities of Magra fear that unrest may soon spill over here. Due to the double tax, peasant farms and industrial manufactories are facing harsh times. The province's wealth is steadily declining, but the discontent of the commoners is still held back by the eternal lot that demands they accept their suffering. Oh, yes. Examine possible endings to check which way you are headed to achieve the goal you've chosen. You have to meet all of its conditions to end the chapter.
City. Okay, let's see. We got 20 minutes left, or actually 10 minutes. Let's see. So, what are you going to do next about the traveler's horse and all that stuff? Are you going to 3D print the plaque and then stick it up with dry cement?
Hmm. I mean,
Probably.
that seems to be the suggested thing. Um,
It's awesome.
I'm
I,
not
I
in
mean, I
Lexington, quite frankly. I can't do it. It wouldn't mean anything if I did it. It would have to be a student of Washington and Lee, or several students of Washington and Lee, and I'm
actually cool. It's like distributor says you have to make people, um, you have to owe something to someone. So like maybe you could make a design. Actually, ask off Templar, so Print Walker, to make you a design in like 3D software,
I've already
and then
I've
yeah.
already had him make a ton of stuff. Although he seems personally passionate about this. I don't know.
Good, and then like contact one of those people from Washington and Lee. Maybe they could come in there and put the plaque out. That could be cool. It could make the disgusting, awful woman there upset. I mean, did she even announce that she's going to like redo that?
No, they were trying to do it very secretly, very quietly. They were trying to basically, just make the swap when no one was looking, um, and do it within a 24-hour period. And they were hoping that, but the problem is that we caught them in the act. Like we caught them as they were doing it, and now there is photographs of every stage of it, and now basically our demands are shifted towards put the plaque back. Put the plaque back. I don't care how much money you spent on it. You're going to spend more money to fix it. And if you don't, we're going to do everything we can to get you fired and put someone in who will. And
Well, I
that's
think a good beginning is the 3D printing and sticking the plaque, like your plaque, up there while they're still like refusing or they're still sitting on their ass and not doing anything. Uh, good. You should- it's not expensive at all, and it's a good deed. You know.
well,
But hey, I'm sure you'll do great.
yeah. Well, Bob, we've got about 10 minutes left. Let's see if
Would
we
you,
can get
would you
through.
like to tell me something?
Um, no, I mean, I don't have. I mean, the thing is like this is an ongoing thing, and I'm just like, you know, I decided to take on this project while also figuring stuff out with the Old Glory Club, while dealing with stuff in my personal situation, while doing all sorts of other things, and it's just I thank the Lord for giving me problems, because I really do believe that if the Lord is giving you problems, He's going to start solving some of your older ones. When the Lord gives you new problems, then some of your older problems just start to get resolved. Um, maybe there's nothing you can really do to solve your problems. Maybe it's just a matter of the Lord gives you problems to hold for a while and then He takes them back from you. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's all. Maybe that's all you can do. Maybe it's more of like, hey, buddy, can you hold this for me for a little bit, and then you hold it for like 10 years, and then He comes back and goes, all right, thank you. Um, Now hold this. I don't know. It's a heuristic, but maybe that's how it does work. I could be totally heretical, but I don't think I'm doing anything that's that heinous. But anyway, it has been 4 years since Archduke Milani and Overseer Tempest first clash. Each claims the right to collect taxes in the province. Now, for the third year in a row, they are each collecting their own tax, and the province is sinking deeper into poverty. The people who have been hit the hardest are miners, diggers, and anyone who owns or manages a mine. When the gunpowder first appeared in Magra, mine workers felt hope for a better future for the first time in years, but the ban soon followed and those hopes died. People have lost their jobs, industrialists and manufacturers have lost their fortunes, the silver industry is in decline. The Lesser Quorum, led by Mayor Egmont, has been fighting to stop double taxation and reverse the ban on gunpowder for a long time now, but to no avail. The common people blame Magistrate Elverman. He has supported the gunpowder ban from the very beginning, branding it too dangerous to be handled by commoners. This friction is throwing sparks everywhere. You have always known that unrest would flare up one day, but oddly enough, it all begins with a celebration. It is early in the morning. You are eating breakfast with your family. Stefan is excited. Your brother has been invited to a ball at the Chancellery, and he has been getting ready ever since he woke up. Magistrate Elverman is a sly man, Stefan. I'd be wary of him if I were you. Some friends in high places can take more than they give. Enough, father. I already know of that. But if we ever want to be a noble by the sword, we have to take advantage of every opportunity that presents itself. There will be nobles of the highest rank there from all over the province. Besides, there's no risk in making Elverman's acquaintance. Their conversation continues. Bored, you excuse yourself and go to the print shop. An ordinary day of work is followed by an ordinary evening. You're about to close up shop for the night when Alida arrives unexpectedly. She brings a letter. It is an urgent report from Sophia. You glance through it hurriedly. The handwriting is not Sophia's. Felipe has taken a great risk by writing to you under a false name, which means that this news is too urgent for caution. Our informers with Egmont's goons have warned us about a march tomorrow morning. There's trouble brewing. Miners, diggers, and even mine owners are involved. They're coming from all over the province to demand Elverman lift the gunpowder ban. This march has Egmont's name all over it. It's supposed to be peaceful, no bloodshed. Apparently the miners think Elverman won't have the guts to use force, so he'll have to listen to their demands. Their plan is to show up during the magistrate's party. They're mad because he's throwing money around while they're all starving. There are several hundred workers coming and they're fired up. You should get there early tomorrow morning. You have the night to get ready. Let's hope you know how to put this intel to good use. You burn the letter in the flame of a candle as the paper turns to ash. You weigh your options. Egmont wants the protest to be peaceful, but will he be able to keep the angry miners from crossing the line? And Stefan will be at that damn party of his. This complicates matters. Either way, Felipe is right. You cannot ignore this. What will you do during this unexpected protest?
What are we gonna do? Alert Elverman. Recruit the protesters. Focus from the havoc. We can't. We don't have enough scheming. Nah, we'll die. I don't know. What would Milton do? I mean, we should have played without the consequences. We should. I think they're kind of cueing us.
Yeah.
Oh, Vermin is our friend, right? Vermin. He's got a very pleasant word. The surname. L. Vermin. I don't know. Difficult. What would we do? Wouldn't we recruit people? I mean, recruiting people requires like podcasts and stuff. So
Yeah.
maybe, right? But then again, we don't need more manipulation. Unrest. Don't have enough wealth. I mean, maybe we should alert Vermin, right? I mean, yeah, let's do it. Let's alert Vermin.
It's not. We're not ready yet.
No. What do you mean we're not ready? Not ready for what?
I mean.
Yeah, protesters is good too. We get a little bit of eloquence, but here we get better life of Stefan Brante, better love from him for us.
Stefan's gonna hate us no matter what.
But we get unity.
Yeah.
And some reputation, so we aren't completely in
shambles.
Zero. So, yeah, I think vermin. We're gonna alert all the vermin. Yeah, we can't bluff it.
What would Milton do?
Milton would like write something, right?
Yeah, Milton would write a Substack. That's what Milton would do. This is what Milton would do. He would write a Substack.
Got a little Twitter. Send a little hot take. Right. A little hot take on the empire, on the Catholic Church. I mean, what did Milton think about the Catholic Church?
I think you've answered your own question. Screw it. We'll recruit the protesters.
Yeah, okay.
You've given Alita her orders. She is to tell Moss and Father Fouad to gather all your men. They need to be ready by tomorrow morning. Your mission is simple. You will join the miners' march. They should not bring weapons. You will support the miners' rally, then recruit anyone you can to your cause. Come morning, the miners march into city, tools in hand. They are dressed in rags, covered in soot and coal dust, hitting buckets with shovels and pickaxes with every step. The rhythm is loud as it is chaotic. The miners are led by mine owners and industrialists who are in turn led by Mayor Egmont himself. His voice can be heard above the incessant din of metal on metal. Give us back our gunpowder! Give us back our lives! If you want coal and silver, give us back our gunpowder! The entire procession repeats after him, hundreds of voices chanting in unison. The people of Anizate echo their refrain from the windows. Occasionally a gendarme finds himself in their path and scurries away. The procession is advancing toward the Chancellery building. Oliver's men join them at the north gate. They are debtors and other assorted scum willing to support any cause for the right price. As the procession enters the temple district, the white robes of the new faith priests join the gray mass of miners. Father Fouad has worked a small miracle indeed. The priest's voices join the commoners' chant. The thunderous din grows louder still. The twins are on our side. Our cause is pleasing to them. Alita joins the procession as it nears the noble district. The last draws youngest members in tows. The miners grow bolder as they see more and more people supporting their cause. You push through the crowd to reach Egmont. I know that was you, Paul. You are not going to cause trouble, are you? We just want them to make a few concessions. I know my men, but as for yours, you tell Mayor not to worry. Your people are just here to show their support. Your goals are the same. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Paul. The thousands of protesters soon approach the Chancellery building. The ball is cut short. Unable to flee the celebration time, most of the nobles are trapped, surrounded by the chanting miners. Stefan is somewhere among them. Caught by surprise, the magistrate barely manages to alert the city gendarmes. Their numbers are too small to disperse a mob this size, but the Anizate Legion garrison will appear any minute now. This is no time to be careless. Sensing its strength, the mob continues to chant and bang on buckets without any fear of the gendarmes. Amid the metallic cacophony, Egmont's words are repeated again and again. Bring us back our gunpowder, bring us back our lives. You want coal and silver, bring back our gunpowder. Egmont clambers up onto a makeshift podium. Workers of Magda, our so-called protectors, are having a feast today. Let them see with their own eyes. Let them hear with their own. Let them hear you with their.
Of Magda unite.
Yeah, you are the blood.
He looks like Karl Marx, right?
Yeah, he does. You are the people who harvest the lifeblood of our promised day and night in the darkness of the mines. You are the people hidden from the light of day. You are the people who earn riches for our masters. The chant is deafening. Pickaxes and shovels clang against metal. This is the moment of truth. Either El Vermon concedes or there will be blood. To the magistrate's credit, he has the composure to face the people himself. The crowd goes quiet for him to speak. I understand your plight, but I will never accept such lawlessness in my city. Leave Anizate immediately before the gendarmes and the Legion force you out. The crowd murmurs in discontent. The people are on the verge of a riot. The magistrate feels it too. He raises his hand. However, I cannot promise you an end to the ban, but I am willing to procure grain and food with my own funds and distribute these supplies to everyone in need. This is a pittance, an insignificant handout designed to keep the people calm, but it is all they can hope for as long as the nobles remain in power. Egmont catches your glance. He understands it too. Magistrate, we accept your offer. We are leaving for the warehouses, and we expect the food wagons to arrive there by tomorrow. Once the miners have their supplies, they will leave the city. The mob disperses. Some leave feeling victorious, invigorated by the triumph of justice. Others, however, walk away feeling dejected and powerless. Your people put your plan into action. As the march spits up into groups, they join them and begin making splits up, making friends, learning names, making connections. When the time comes, many of these miners will walk the streets again and get what they deserve, or be sacrificed for Felipe's personal agenda. Later that evening, you are treated to another fight between Stefan and Gloria. Your brother rants about the commoners who win the ball. Angry with the nobility, Gloria claims there will be a full-fledged revolt one day. You stay out of it. All right.
Okay.
We'll end it here.
Wonderful stream. We did a lot of things, Paul.
Yes, sir.
This is great.
Yep.
In fact, soon I shall have the highlights channel up and running.
Great.
So we could spread it a bit, and we're getting more people to watch us, and you're getting more subscribers. Wonderful. Soon, Soon A will beg to come on the show.
I don't much care, man. I'm a happy amateur. Making frickin' streams with my friends.
But it is cool. It is cool when people watch it. I like feedback. I want people to tell us what's good, what's bad.
Yes, sir.
And all that stuff. And yeah, hey, I wish you the best of luck.
Likewise, my friend.
Like, I don't want Mars Roberts' grave to just get desecrated.
Well, that's and
getting exhumed.
That's the next step. Is the thing. That's the next step. Obviously they couldn't go after Lee himself, so they're going after his horse. And if they can, what is it? It's like my friend said that there was a saying in the Soviet Union: always take 2 steps forward because you only have to apologize for taking one of the steps. You know, and so it's like if obviously they're gonna first they change the horse's grave. It's robbing everything of any context or any meaning and making everything just like everything else. Um,
Well, if there's no meaning, you can always write your own meaning. So maybe that's a blessing in disguise.
Perhaps.
Okay, so thank you so much, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Thanks everyone for the stream. Thanks, average commenter, for giving us compliments. So, see you.